We think that one of the most important things is for cities to become regenerative. What does that mean? It means to go beyond sustainability in the sense that sustainability indicates something that you sustain, but we have to consider many of the ecosystem and the natural capital is already damaged, so we need to go well beyond, and we need to regenerate the ecosystem that we damaged and resources that we depend from. So the concept of the regenerative city is based on the concept of circularity, so moving from a linear metabolism in cities to a circular metabolism. And there are, I would say, 4 key regenerations in the regenerative city. The first one is the regeneration of resources. So how do we move from a linear system to a circular system? How do we recirculate all the resources that the city absorbs and needs? The second one is the regeneration of the natural capital and the ecosystems. So what this means is, how can a city not just become, not just be a consumer, but a prosumer? How can city be productive? How can city create their own food, their own energy, look at renewable energy, their own food, look at vertical agriculture, water? How can the city allow water to be absorbed by the ground? So we need much more green infrastructure, and this water recharges the aquifer, the rainwater recharges the aquifer, can be reused within the city borders. The third generation is regeneration of urban spaces. What this means is that instead of sprawling and expanding, we need to regenerate the existing urban fabric. This means regenerating what we already have. This is the biggest challenge, because if you have to rebuild a city from scratch, that's kind of much more easy. But if you have to work on something existing, that's much more complicated and much more challenging. The fourth one is eventually the regeneration of communities. This is about revitalizing communities and people who live in the city, because they will be the driver of this regeneration. So we really work with this concept of regeneration because it's very dynamic. It sort of indicates what is the key characteristic of natural systems. They can regenerate themselves, and cities need to have this ability and need to become therefore more regenerative. I think there are 3 main challenges today. So, and they're mostly related to governance. So the first one is, how do we engage citizens? How do we recreate a public space? Most of our lives we dedicate to our family, to our professional life, but there's no space for debating issues. If I live in a street, how can I participate in how decisions are taken? This will be extremely important, not only from a democratic perspective, but also it will drive the transition much faster. If we have people who are involved and are able to take decisions within their neighborhoods on how money are spent, for example, let's think about participatory budgeting. If you have forum for consultations, where it's not one person deciding for everyone, but people have the chance to feel part of a community and recreate a sense of belonging, is really important, because it creates also civic engagement. So this is extremely important. So the first one, how do we engage citizens and make them the drivers of the transition? The second one is, how do we change the governance structure so that cities and national governments can work better together? This is extremely important. We've seen a push for decentralization, and cities want to have more power. They are many often more ambitious than national governments, but they are many times in conflicts with them. So how do we make sure that a consistency and coherence across different levels of governments? This is also a challenge the city will have to face. The third one is department-to-department collaborations. We've seen a lot of problems, and this comes up all the time in conferences that we attend, and is the problem of silos thinking, and how do we work across silos. And this was raised yesterday by the Commission, a member of the European Commission, who highlighted that within the European Commission there's a problem because departments don't talk to each other. So the problem of this is that if I work for the planning department, I have priorities that are very different from the environment one. So I end up doing things that are counterproductive for the environment one. So how do we merge this? How can we work more cohesively together across departments, city departments? The most important thing about these international agreements, these international agendas, is to clear a clear vision that we can all agree on. So basically it's like a catalyzer. It's basically like streamlining efforts to one common goal. So everyone is like a constitution. Everyone can refer to it and say, okay, this is the document that we agree upon. We all need to act towards that goal. because otherwise you have different countries that are going towards different directions. And the importance of unity in solving the issues and considering the urgency is very important. If we are united and we agree and we work together towards that goal, the transition and transformation that we need will be much faster. The other aspect is that it gives mandates to cities. So basically is bringing cities at the center. For example, the EU urban agenda, but also the new urban agenda of the Habitat 3 is saying we need cities on board and we need them together on board. So it's basically giving a mandate for action, it's pushing cities to do more. And at the same time, cities want to do more. So at the same time, cities have an opportunity to have a voice in the international discourse and say, hey, we need this from national governments. So it's a sort of bilateral effort and bilateral role that it plays.